nomad and facial expressions and layers. I'll keep this a quick one. So I did a few sort of morph target tests with Morphin and Nomad. You don't need Morphin. You can do it all inside Nomad just to make the shapes. But people are asking how I did it. It is as simple as you go to the Move tool, you go to Add Layer, and you sculpt, and that's it. So I might make this shape like that. And then if I slide this layer around, hey presto, you're a facial rigger. What I wanted to talk about was a mistake that people sometimes make when they're doing this kind of facial sculpting is remember that for these kind of things, you're sculpting in time. So it has to be a sculpt that when you look at it moving, it makes sense. So if I just do kind of this sort of vanilla move brush and move it up like that, that kind of works. But if you saw someone's face in real life move like that, it looks like kind of Mr. Beast and his weird sort of serial killer smile where he doesn't smile with his eyes. Like a face is a full interconnected bit of like fat and muscle and gristle and kind of weirdness. So try and get some of those aspects. So things that I often do is when I'm sculpting that first smile shape, rather than just use the straight vanilla move brush, I will kind of think about how that muscle is attached, where it's mainly attached into like the corner of the mouth there, and that's going to get pulled the most, and it's going to very rapidly fall off, so that the rest of the face kind of left behind, which gives you all those kind of like cheek folds and creases. So the way to fake that is if you go to the stroke options, you go to fall off, and make this be a bit more pinchy. So let's go in POW 3, feels interesting. Because if I now grab right on the corner of the mouth there and pull that in, that gets more of that sort of like pinch pull effect. That's probably a bit too extreme, but that might mean that I'm just going to make this brush bigger. Maybe even just sort of do it in stages. And the other thing to think about is to look at it from different angles, because a smile isn't just like corners going up from the front, it's also going back from the sides. So if I look at this way, I could say that actually that should be kind of going more back, and that should be going more back. The front of the lips would probably push against the teeth a bit more, and you can see even though already that has a bit more kind of like life to it. So it's the same rules for sculpting a static thing applies for sculpting facial expressions. So look at it from multiple angles. Always have reference nearby. I should have reference here, but I can, I suppose, look at my face in the webcam and kind of look at, although I'm looking at the tiny OBS recording, I'll look over here. So you're really going to get that sort of crease there more. So you can do things like I could bring up the crease brush, and I could really dig into that crease some more. I could maybe even inflate on both sides of it. So I'm kind of like simulating how this that material kind of builds up more. So have a look at that. So that's feeling better. But this is it. Like what I'm doing is I'm just constantly sliding that back and forth, going, does that look right? Does that look right? Does that look right? Really, if you're going to be like sort of fancy pants rigging, you would keep the lower mouth and the upper face separate shapes. But actually, because we're sculpting and this is Nomad and Nomad's really cool and quick, I tend to sort of do it all together. And then if I want to, maybe later, I can then take these layers and I can break them apart into separate shapes. So like a smile is also going to be like sort of pushing up in the eyes a bit, kind of like that. That might get a bit more sort of meat and sort of inflation across here, maybe across there. And again, we just like sort of do that and take a look. Maybe the nose would get pulled up a bit more as well. Maybe up there. It helps to look at the wireframes, because then you can see where things are moving too far versus not far enough, and you can sort of try and sort of get it all moving together. So this region here doesn't feel like it's sort of moving together with everything. So I might reset the brush and just have a guess as to how much that should be moving up with it. Yeah, that feels good. And look from the front, that should probably inflate a bit more. Come on, inflate brush. And I'll try and puff that up. So we're kind of simulating all the cheek fat that are bunching up into there. It's not too bad. So that would kind of work. Maybe the center of this should be a bit more up as well. Whoops, that should be moved. Like that. Yeah, okay, so that's one. So we'll name that one smile. So now we can turn that off. make another layer, and we'll make this one say a frown. So this is where, like, again, having like pictures of people making facial expressions. There's a great picture online I found of Jim Varney making faces. That was my reference for one of my other things. But I've got like books like the Atlas of Facial Expressions and all kinds of just fancy reference material. But a mirror is plenty. So let's say we're going to do like sort of a frowny face. So these are kind of pulling those down. So you can almost like make it with your fingers. Like you can feel the flesh. You can do that. You get like a big crease there, and the lip goes weird, and the chin gets pulled down. So try and get all those things. So that's going to go down to like that. Maybe pulling back more like that. Maybe more. Oftentimes, my sort of advice is, go as far as you think you can go, and then push it another like 50%. You can it's generally the bigger the better. So if I've got all this flesh pulling down to there, then this should all be sort of inflating a bit more, because the flesh has to go somewhere, like that. This might have to be pushing against the teeth as well, like that. The corners of the nose will be getting pulled down a little bit. And even this might be getting pulled down a little bit. So again, you just want to see like as much sort of flesh moving, and that it moves sort of like in ways that make sense. Anything to do with the move, again, you people with your fancy new pencils, if you can like twist, I can't do that, but I can put the pencil down and then I can twist with my finger, so I can sort of simulate this kind of thing. So if I was to grab it and then start to pull it around like that, so I'm getting more of this sort of rotation shape. Oh, I'm seeing that should have more of a crease there. That'd be really cool to get a crease going on. So I might enhance this crease a bit. That's pretty cool. Even this one as well, get it a bit more wrinkly. Again, I should be looking at my own face. Yeah, so you can see this, that line there gets more exaggerated. So that's, I'll stop at those two, but we'll say that is sad. And this one is happy. And what you can also do is, if you think it's working, but you want to see how it looks if you were to push it even harder, you go into the properties for that layer and go to its settings menu. You can push this offset slider up, so you can see how this goes if you go even more. So we're getting to sort of scary Aphex Twin, come to daddy sort of territory. But I think for this character, that actually looks pretty cool. So that's turned up 247%. So that's now what that looks like, which is pretty cool. And again, we'll get it from multiple angles. Now the side looks cool. Maybe that should come back a bit further from the top. Getting this nice bit of squinch here, although that shape there doesn't feel quite right. So maybe that should be, try and pull it out a little bit. Although now that I'm at this double strength, it's going to have like double the effect. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea. So remember, you're sculpting in time, you're sculpting in motion. So constantly be doing this, making sure everything is moving that should be moving. Yeah, hope that helps.